Welcome back to Coins Numismatic Series, where we dive deep into the fascinating stories behind some of the world's most beloved coins. Today we're exploring a coin that you've likely held in your hand dozens of times without ever fully appreciating its history, design, and collector appeal, the 1981 Lincoln penny 1-cent coin. Get ready, because this isn't just any penny. Today we're uncovering layers of history, design brilliance, minting details, intriguing errors, and why collectors still chase after this classic piece of American coinage. Let's jump right into the story behind the 1981 Lincoln penny. Imagine holding in your hand a small copper coin with an image that has been a staple of American currency for decades. That image, of President Abraham Lincoln, has been with us on the 1-cent piece since 1909. By the time 1981 rolled around, the Lincoln penny had been in continuous production for over 70 years. But this wasn't simply a continuation of a long-running series, it was a coin that connected generations, transit rides, school lunches, and the everyday economic life of the United States. Let's begin with the historical context. The year 1981 was a time of economic challenges and cultural changes in the United States. Ronald Reagan had just taken office as the 40th president. The country was grappling with inflation and high interest rates, and the value of everyday items, including coins, was a concern for the public. Yet year after year, the familiar Lincoln penny remained in circulation, a small but steady reminder of American resilience. The Lincoln cent itself was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It replaced the Indian head cent, which had been produced since 1859. Designer Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln was a departure from the classical allegorical figures common on coins at the time. Instead, it offered a real, recognizable figure from American history. By 1981, the Lincoln penny was an icon, so much so that for many people it was the very definition of pocket change. Now let's talk about the design of this particular coin. The obverse, or front, features a right-facing bust of Abraham Lincoln, with the word Liberty to his left and the date 1981 to his right. Below Lincoln's shoulder, you'll find the tiny initials VDB, the mark of designer Victor David Brenner. Brenner's initials had a controversial history. They were included on the very first 1909 issues but were quickly removed due to public outcry that the initials were too prominent. They were later restored in a much smaller form beginning in 1918, and by 1981 they were an accepted and familiar part of the design. Above Lincoln's head are the words "In God We Trust," the national motto that first appeared on U.S. coins in 1864 during the Civil War, reflecting the nation's historical context and the prevailing sentiments of the time. The simplicity of the design hides a thoughtful balance. Lincoln's dignified profile combined with the motto and inscriptions evoke a sense of tradition and national identity. Turning the coin over, the reverse displays the familiar Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Until that point, the reverse of the Lincoln cent had featured wheat stalks on either side of the words 1 cent, which is why pre-1959 Lincoln cents are commonly referred to as wheat pennies. The Lincoln Memorial design was created by Frank Gasparo, whose work aimed to capture the architectural majesty of the real monument in Washington, D.C. At the center is the Lincoln Memorial itself, flanked by the inscriptions United States of America across the top and 1 cent along the bottom. Above the memorial is the national motto E pluribus unum, a Latin phrase meaning, out of many, one, a quiet but powerful reminder of the unity of the states. If you examine the coin closely, and if your eyes are sharp enough, you can even make out a tiny depiction of the seated Lincoln statue within the memorial on some well-struck pieces, an extraordinary detail given the penny's small size. Now, let's delve into the minting details of the 1981 Lincoln penny. In 1981, pennies were produced at multiple mints. The Philadelphia Mint struck coins without a mint mark, while the Denver Mint used the well-known D mint mark. These marks are found on the obverse, just under the date. In 1981, there were no Lincoln cents produced at the San Francisco Mint for general circulation, those were primarily reserved for special proof sets. The mintage figures for 1981 were substantial, reflecting the everyday demand for pennies in commerce. Millions upon millions of these coins entered circulation, making them a common sight in coin rolls, cash registers, and piggy banks around the country. Speaking of mintage brings us to the topic of condition and collector interest. Because so many 1981 pennies were made, they are generally plentiful and easy to find in circulated condition. A typical 1981 Lincoln penny that has been in everyday use might show wear on Lincoln's cheek, hair, or the memorial on the reverse. In circulated grades, these coins are common, and their market value typically hovers just above face value, sometimes just a few cents in most cases. But the story changes when we consider uncirculated and mint state specimens. A 1981 Lincoln penny that has been preserved with full luster, crisp strike, and no signs of wear can attract the attention of collectors, particularly if the coin exhibits attractive color and toning. High-grade examples, especially those graded by reputable services like PCGS or NGC, can command modest premiums over face value, though not astronomical amounts. For many collectors, the joy comes from completing date and mint mark sets or obtaining a beautifully preserved roll of these iconic coins. Now let's turn to one of the most intriguing aspects of modern coin collecting, errors and varieties. Even common coins like the 1981 Lincoln penny can exhibit unusual characteristics that make them more valuable and interesting. One of the most common error types you might encounter on a Lincoln cent from this era is the off-center strike. In an off-center strike, the coin is not perfectly aligned in the press, resulting in part of Lincoln's image or the memorial appearing cut off. Depending on how far off-center the strike is, such coins can be dramatic and sought after by error collectors. Another error variety is the double die, a phenomenon where the die itself has a slight doubling of the design features. In the case of Lincoln cents, this might show as doubling on parts of Lincoln's face, the date, or the lettering. While not all 1981 pennies have significant double die varieties, careful examination under magnification can reveal subtle die characteristics that are fascinating to study. There are also die cracks and die breaks, where small raised lines or chunks appear on the coin due to cracks or deterioration in the die during the minting process. These defects can create unique visual patterns that some collectors prize. Broad strikes and clipped planchets are other types of errors you might encounter, each with its own story about how the coin was struck. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just beginning your numismatic journey, spotting and understanding these errors can be tremendously rewarding. Of course, it's worth talking about the metal composition of the 1981 Lincoln penny, because that too plays a role in its look and value. Pennies minted prior to 1982 were composed of a bronze alloy, 95% copper with 5% zinc and tin. This composition gives the coin its warm, reddish hue that many collectors find appealing. In mid-1982, the U.S. Mint transitioned to a primarily zinc core with a thin copper plating due to rising copper prices, making the pre-1982 coins especially interesting to some collectors. Since 1981 falls before that switch, all 1981 Lincoln pennies are the classic bronze composition. Over time, exposure to the elements can alter the color of these coins, sometimes turning them to deep brown, red-brown, or even vibrant red tones. These color variations can affect desirability among collectors, with red condition coins often attracting more interest than their brown counterparts. Let's pause for a moment and reflect on why a coin that might seem so ordinary still holds such fascination. The Lincoln penny is more than just currency, it's a piece of history that has passed through countless hands. From the pocket of a schoolchild saving up for a comic book, to the cash drawer of a small business owner, to the change jar sitting on a shelf for years, each penny tells a story of everyday life. The 1981 Lincoln penny is a snapshot of its time, a link in a chain that stretches back to the early 20th century and beyond. Collectors often talk about the emotional connection they feel when holding a coin with historical significance. With the Lincoln cent series, that emotional connection is heightened by familiarity. Unlike rare gold coins that most people will never see in person, the Lincoln penny is something many of us encounter daily. That's part of its magic, its blend of the familiar and the historically meaningful. So what should you look for if you're hunting for a great 1981 Lincoln penny? First, pay attention to the surface condition. Look for coins with strong, clear details, especially around Lincoln's cheek, jawline, and hair, and around the memorial on the reverse. A well-struck coin with sharp lettering and no major wear is always a great find. Second, keep an eye out for unusual toning. Some color variations can be stunning and make a coin stand out in a collection. Third, and perhaps most exciting for many collectors, search for errors. Whether it's an off-center strike, a double die, or a die crack, these anomalies can turn an everyday penny into a conversation piece. As we wrap up our deep dive into the 1981 Lincoln penny 1-cent coin, let's remember why we collect in the first place. Numismatics isn't just about value, it's about history, artistry, and the stories that coins carry with them. Each coin is a tiny artifact of the culture and economy that produced it, and the 1981 Lincoln penny is no exception. It represents a moment in time, a snapshot of American life, and a legacy that continues to resonate with collectors and casual enthusiasts alike. If you enjoyed this detailed exploration of the 1981 Lincoln penny, make sure you subscribe to Coins Numismatic Series for more in-depth stories behind coins from around the world. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling us what coin you want us to explore next, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Whether you're hunting in pocket change or curating a specialized collection, there's always a story behind every coin waiting to be discovered. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep collecting.